I know you like that. How long you been back, man? I see the girls in the club, they getting wild for me.
Welcome into the Saturday Show, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Saturday morning. I'm Jay Catch, joined by Michelle Bodkin once again. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's what we like to hear. We are supposed to be out on the plaza, so maybe at some point you may hear like the audio change a little bit. There's a big old event going on out on the essentially to the right of the Devereaux Mansion, out on the plaza here at the Triad Center. Our own Scott Gerard is competing against some of the top grill masters, I guess is the best way to call it.
Yeah.
In the state, if not the country, and the stakes that those guys were pulling, they had so the main competition day is steaks.
Okay.
The steaks that they were handing out, Michelle, I'm like, yeah, that's going to cost you a pretty penny in any restaurant you go to.
For sure.
Because they were thick chop. Like, it was like, okay, yeah, these are going to be legit. So
These people are serious, man.
So if you want to stop on by and check it out, you can do it. There are a number of pretty high profile outlets out there. I said Scott Gerard's competing in this, and it should be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how this all goes.
It was really fun last year. Yeah. You wouldn't know because you couldn't bother to show up.
I had some other engagements, you know.
But yeah, it should be a good time. So definitely come out and check it out. The samples last year that we got were phenomenal. So I'm very upset that we're inside at the moment.
We'll have to figure that out.
We'll have to figure that out because I want the free food.
They need to come up here now. No.
Yeah, come serve us.
Yeah, no. So we'll figure that out. But nonetheless, hope everybody's doing well. And we will talk about a number of things on today's show. We're going to be checking all of the different topics, including college basketball. We're going to check in with Bob Casper from Real Golf Radio. You just heard their show, but he will check in with us, give us the latest stuff from the PGA Championship. So far as I know, and Christian, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, nobody got arrested this morning, right, at the PGA Championship?
Not that I know of, no. Yeah,
and no one died either.
It's like those signs, 0 days, 1 day since last accident.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a crazy, crazy story coming out of the PGA Tour yesterday.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unbelievable. Not exactly what you would think about when you think golf.
Yeah, absolutely insane story. By the way, one of the highlights of the week, I'll just start off right now.
Okay, go for it.
Twitter is at its best when moments like that go down.
Oh, for sure.
Because the memes that were flying, the hot takes, all kinds of stuff. It's when it's at its absolute best, was when the number one golfer in the world is being hauled off by Louisville Metropolitan Police and gets booked, has a mugshot taken in an orange jumpsuit, and then less than an hour later, he's back on the range getting ready. And by the way, goes out there and steamrolls his way around a course.
I was about to say, he actually shockingly still had a great day, despite being behind, not getting the warm-ups.
Oh.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm not a golfer, though, either. So either way, it would be disastrous for me. But, I don't think there's any amount of warm-ups that could help me.
Okay. Well, the fun part about it is, not the fun part, the funny part about all of it is Jeff Darlington from ESPN is sitting there hey, what are you guys doing? And then if you hear the audio of Jeff Darlington's video, there's a cop that's hey, you need to back up here. And he's like, hey, I'm media. And they're and then afterwards, Jeff Darlington said the cops eventually turned to him and said, hey, who did we just arrest? That should tell you a lot, I feel like.
Yeah. If you don't even know who you just arrested, then why are you arresting them?
Well, if you read the police report, the cop got dragged a little bit. He attached himself to the vehicle, per the police report. Ended up getting abrasions on his knee and his arm. And the story, the police report, you can read the direct police report. This officer had his $80 work pants ruined. They were damaged beyond repair, Michelle. So
sad.
It was an incredible story yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So that was the highlight of my week. You got a highlight of the week?
Yeah, you know what?
Frivolous as that was, by the way.
Right, yes. I got my kind of first chance to jump on and talk about Utah and the Big 12.
Okay.
With Big 12 Insiders, which is part of the 247 Sports Network. And it was a lot of fun. I have to say, it's going to be interesting and fun the next year or two, jumping on and doing some of these shows, because there is going to be a legit sense of we don't know you very well.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas, the Pac-12, there was a lot of familiarity at this point in time between everyone. You kind of knew what you were getting. That doesn't exist at the moment. So I I think that makes those conversations way more fun.
Yeah.
Because you're actually learning something about each other. And that was a similar feeling, the past 2 years, getting to talk to Florida insiders and kind of have those conversations. So I'm looking forward to that end of it. I think it's going to be fun getting to know everyone and making some new friends.
That's with Tim Fitzgerald, right?
Yes.
We had him on DJ and PK not that long ago. He's a fun dude to get to know.
He's very, very fun. And Big B as well. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I haven't met Big B yet, but I've seen enough of they do good work. That's cool. That's fun.
Yeah, they're fun guys.
So Michelle, bridging the gap between Utah and the Big 12.
You know what? I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best.
That's what we like to hear. Christian, you got a highlight of the week before we really get going here?
Yeah, it was a pretty eventful week for me. Last Sunday was my birthday. It
Happy
was also
birthday.
Mother's Day, too.
And
Thank
happy
you.
Mother's
Thank
Day.
you, yeah. So
That's quite a combo.
It's not the first time I've had to share my birthday with Mother's Day.
Okay.
But it was
Naturally.
fun. I went up to my parents' house. We had dinner and stuff, and it was kind of like a combo, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day kind of deal. So it was fun.
Okay, you're a pretty young buck. You're just like the ripe old age of 25 now? Or what?
24, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Depressing.
Christian, I'm like 11 years older than you.
Making us feel old, Christian. Come on, here we go. No, but that's awesome, man. Okay. May birthdays. Yeah, I never thought about that. You'd have some crossover with Mother's Day and whatnot.
Yep, yeah, it happens every once in a while.
Okay,
But we get through it. It's fun. I mean, I really don't mind sharing. Plus, my wife's birthday is like the first week of May, so we kind of already celebrated, kind of like both of our
it's a,
birthdays.
it's a combo
Yeah.
thing. Okay,
So
cool. Nothing wrong with that at all.
yeah, pretty eventful first couple weeks of May.
Sounds like it. All right, let's dive on in though, Michelle. Let's talk a little college basketball.
Let's do it.
The local college hoops teams roster is completely in flux. Coaching staff's in flux, but it's no different than anybody else. It feels like in college basketball across the country right now.
Yeah.
Just this morning, I guess, quote unquote, breaking news out of BYU. Noah Waterman, who was the starting four-man last year, shot 37% from three. Pretty key part, all things considered, of what they did last year. He's committed to Louisville. So the starting two big men from BYU from this past year, Ali Khalifa and Noah Waterman, will be suiting up for the Louisville Cardinals, and they will be playing against their former head coach, Mark Pope, who's at Kentucky, of all places. So kind of a funny dynamic there. But I think it kind of explains the whole, I don't know, what the transfer portal era has become, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's so transactional. And you know this from the Utah perspective
Yeah.
right now. Davon Smith has an incredible season. He's out. So you look at it and you say, people want to get upset about it, but at the same time, you can't really get upset because this is literally happening nationwide.
Yeah. This is pretty much a problem everyone's having to deal with, and there's just no getting around it until there's some rules maybe put in place.
Yes.
And again, I'm not saying that the transfer portal is bad. I'm not saying that NIL is bad. I'm saying how those things exist together in this moment is not great. But I think there's a way to do it that makes everybody happy and just, I think, would help, especially like a sport like college basketball, kind of get back on track again. I feel like they've lost themselves a little bit. It's just too easy to leave. It's too easy to have roster turnover. And in that case, it just makes it really hard, I think, for fans to really engage and care about these teams because every year you're basically dealing with an entirely new team and you don't know all these people. Football, it's a little bit different because the roster's so big. You're still going to have a bit of a core of people, I think, for the most part, unless you're Deion Sanders at Colorado, in which case, I mean, that's just a completely and totally different story. But there's still an opportunity to kind of get to know your team in football. I feel like that's getting a little bit lost in basketball, and I think it's really hurting the sport.
So here's the question I've got for you is there's been, we'll go to the Utah's perspective for a moment here, is that Craig Smith, I don't want to say he's on the hot seat, but I think it's a little bit warm, if that makes sense. And there are people out there that a lot of Utah fans, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, a lot of Utah fans came to love Utah via Rick Majerus and those running Utes teams of the 1990s. Trust me, you, as a kid who grew up in the state, you did the same thing. you couldn't help but watch what they were doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people latched onto that. And I think a lot of Utah fans are a bit jaded because they think of those glory days and say, why can't we get back to that level? Craig Smith, by all accounts, when he came to Utah, had the bona fide credentials to really elevate Utah back to what they are. But it just hasn't necessarily worked out to the level. Now, this past season, had they been able to figure out a way to win a road game or two in the Pac-12?
Yeah, that's a problem.
They may have made the NCAA tournament. I think the whole tenor would have changed around that.
Yeah.
But they did fall short. So now there's rumors about a guy like Andre Miller potentially coming on staff. You and I have heard those rumors. We've been talking to people. We'll see if it happens. Now they officially announced the hire of Lo Heath. Did I get that correct?
Leith.
Okay, yeah, Lo Leith yesterday.
Yes.
So there's at least one assistant being hired. So my long-winded way of asking you is by setting all that up is saying, is Craig Smith, in your mind, capable of adapting to what college basketball is today?
I mean, at the end of it, he has to.
Okay.
If he wants to keep the job, you have to. And even if you don't necessarily want to stay here, if you want to get hired elsewhere, you have to show that, So
Correct,
it's either sink or swim at this point in time. You either adapt to what it is or you need to get out. And I know that that's been a challenge for coaches across the board in college sports. It's kind of difficult and hard, and it hasn't been an easy process. Again, I think you see guys like, Nick Saban kind of stepping out because it's just gone too far in a way that they're not able to adapt to it. I think like Kyle Whittingham's done a good job of adapting.
Yeah.
At least enough. Could he probably adapt some more? Probably, but I mean, he's an old school guy, so you can only.
But he's not Dabo Swinney.
Oh gosh, no. Let's add him to the list of, along with Deion Sanders. What you doing, baby?
Anyways, go ahead. Didn't mean to derail you, but
no, you're good. But and I think now it's looking at the basketball side of things. I think it's Craig Smith's turn, and again, I don't want to say that all of this is his fault, but like he does share some blame in why this has not worked. This is not looking the way that I think Utah fans want it to look. And so, again, it's if you value the job, if you want to stay, if you want to really build this program, then you have to adapt. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to adapt to everything. Absolutely, I think it's important for people to keep their own flavor in certain aspects and areas, but you have to adapt and you have to get on board with what the current situation is, simply just to survive. It's probably going to change again, and you'll have to adapt again. But in the meantime, take some pride in your job and do what you have to in order to get this to work.
Sure, and that brings me to what on the BYU side of things is I think in some small way Kevin Young may be better suited for this era of college basketball than most coaches because the NBA is so transactional. You're constantly shifting rosters. Now, NBA teams have the benefit of actually having long-term contracts, guys on 4 and 5 year deals, but anymore in the NBA, we can look no further than Donovan Mitchell and him essentially forcing his way out of Utah, and these superstars that decide they want to play elsewhere and they get moved. It's a very much dynamic of what happens in the NBA where each year you kind of come into training camp and you look and say, okay, what do we got? And you kind of have to roll with the punches there. And I think Kevin Young, having spent 15 years now in the NBA game, even at the G League level, he understands it's about development and it's also about being adaptable. And that's I think going to benefit BYU. Now, I say that by saying BYU only has 8 guys currently on their roster. They've got they got 5 scholarships still to fill.
Yeah.
Now the reports
Utah's in the same boat.
Sure, yeah, but if you believe the reports, I'm sure Utah's the same thing. There's a number of guys taking visits.
Yep.
BYU had 2 big men a visit earlier this week. There's a high-level guard in Chaz Lanier who reportedly is visiting right now. BYU. Elijah Crawford, who had signed with Stanford. Brandon Dunson, who's BYU's one of their assistant coaches, recruited him to Stanford. New regime takes over at Stanford, and he decides to look elsewhere. He's reportedly going to visit BYU early next week. So there's a long way to go here, Michelle, before these rosters are set. But these coaches, you've got to be able to adapt to it. Because if you don't, you're dead in the water. And for the life of me, I don't get how in the football sense, Dabo Swinney can say, well, yeah, we're just going to do our thing. It's like, dude, you're falling behind here.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is you adapt or die. That's a great term for this. And it'll be interesting to see how these programs, speaking of Utah and BYU, come out of this because I don't expect either roster to be set probably till July.
Yeah, I mean, that's a strong possibility. That's absolutely a strong possibility. I think, and I know that makes fans on both sides panic a little bit because they're watching all these guys commit to other places.
Yeah.
And it feels like the talent pool is just dwindling away, and who are we going to get? Oh no.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of what this is at the moment. And to your point about Kevin Young being maybe about as well equipped as you could hope for to deal with what college basketball currently is because of his experience in the NBA, it goes back to a theory that we discussed not too long ago that I think I think you're going to see college coaches start having a lot more success at the pro level and pro level coaches having a lot more success at the college level. I think you're going to see that transaction a lot more because that's basically what college athletics, speaking primarily about basketball and football, is turning into. And so because they're going to be a much more similar product, the crossover is just going to make a whole lot more sense than it ever has.
I'm with you because anymore these two levels of the sport are becoming almost like simpatico with each other because it's free agency in college sports where back in the day the coaches controlled everything. And there are college coaches that want to control everything. Look at what Chip Kelly was like as a college coach in football. But anymore, the athletes are being given more and more of their freedom to decide what their future is going to be, and that's kind of what the NBA has become. So you're right. Yeah, there are going to be coaches from the NBA level, and speaking of Kevin Young coming down from the NBA, who I think are going to fit quite well. But there's other coaches, who jump up from the college ranks in the pro ranks and do quite well for themselves as well. I think you look at Billy Donovan. He won 2 national championships of Florida, and he hasn't reached the mountaintop in the NBA, but he's been a fairly above average coach, I think. So I don't think there's ever a perfect scenario that's going to play out here, but you're right. These coaching staffs here locally, they have to be able to figure it out very quickly. But if they're going to be intent on bringing over some international players, which I understand BYU is very much intent on trying to get some kids out of Europe potentially, those guys typically don't sign until June or July. So that's why I say these rosters, they are far from complete. They're sitting with is Utah at 8 right now? Are they?
I believe they're at 8. So they still have 5 spots to fill. You've got 13 scholarships to fill out. So there are 10 guys between BYU and Utah right now that are somewhere in the world. Somewhere in the world. We don't know who they are yet.
That will be on the roster this fall when they tip it off. So it's an interesting dynamic out there to track because it's just funny to me that, okay, you have, in BYU's case, Mark Pope leaves for Kentucky. He is trying to bring guys like Dallin Hull over with him. He got, the kid from Farmington. Name escaped me all of a sudden.
Oh, that's bad. I'm right there with you, though.
So he pulls him, but none of his current players are going. Yeah. Two of his former players are going to his arch rival at Louisville.
Right.
It's like, what is going on here? But I think it's kind of a dichotomy and just kind of a glance into what college basketball is in this modern era, and it's kind of a funny deal. All right. We're going to take a time out here. We'll come back on the other side. I believe we have figured out our connection issues, Michelle.
What?
So
I get to be closer to the barbecue.
Yes, we're going to run out and sit more by the smokers and smell those delicious meats grilling up. It's the Pitmaster barbecue competition happening here at the Triad Center. We'll look for you guys. The Pitmaster Barbecue Cook-Off. Excuse me. I got that right. Got to get that right.
Yes.
But we will be back on the other side, and might sound a little bit different, but we'll be outside. So more in a moment right here on the Saturday Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And Michelle, suddenly it smells a whole lot better.
It really does.
We've got grills going up and down outside the Triad Center here. We're just adjacent to the Devereaux Mansion if you want to stop by. Our very own Scott, you're right. I can see him right over there. He's grilling up something delicious. They're doing steaks today, as far as I'm aware. Also doing ribs, cobbler, and Michelle, not one but 2 styles of wings, drums and flats.
Ooh.
It's a big competition.
Ooh.
So
Give me some of them wings.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of things set up here. So we'd love for you guys to stop by and say hi if you're in the area. It's good to be out here, and obviously we'll be tracking how things are going. But I'm telling you, Michelle, those steaks were like right behind us right over here. I know nobody can see that, but they were like a good 1.5 inch thick cut.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
Jeez.
and they actually had you had to pull a chip. Like you had to get in line.
Ah.
So like number one got to pick what he thinks is the best steak, like marbling and the whole deal. So this is pretty cool. It'll be fun competition, obviously, and not to mention delicious competition at the same time.
Yes.
All right, so we just talked some college hoops, Michelle. Now, I want to talk a little bit about – we talked about the transfer portal, and I want to kind of morph that and talk a little more about football for a moment here. And the premise I'm going off here is that – by and large, college football rosters are set. Now, they can still have some movement, obviously, because there could be a straggler or two in terms of the transfer portal, a late high school or junior college signing or the like. But by and large, those type of signings this time of year aren't going to impact the success this fall of these universities. Does that make sense?
Yeah. At this point, I think you are what you are.
Yeah.
At least you should have a pretty good idea of who you are. If you don't, you might be in trouble.
You may be the bottom dweller this year.
Yeah, you may not be the best. That's for sure. But I still expect Utah to bring in a couple more guys. I know that they're being kind of selective,
as they should be,
and that's exactly it. They don't have to rush. They don't have to bring in warm bodies, so to speak. Like, they can take their time and really decide, who's going to add some value to us. And you may not see that on the field per se this fall, but it's going to show up in practices with the scout team. And who knows, maybe someone does, come in and surprise and ends up being a big-time contributor. But for the most part, that roster's set. They know who they are. And anyone that they're trying to add isn't necessarily, I don't think, going to be expected to be a huge contributor.
And I know you said you joined the Big 12 Insiders earlier this week to talk about Utah's entrance into this conference. I don't think anybody within the sound of our voice is going to disagree that Utah's going to be one, maybe two in the Big 12 preseason poll. You talk about the fact that Utah's trying to essentially maybe add a piece or two that can kind of bolster things. I think it's the same thing for BYU in this circumstance. Mm-hmm. But whereas Utah, they're coming into a conference where they're expected to have a lot of success. From the BYU side of it, you look at it and say, okay, they started the season 5-2 a year ago. Felt like, okay, maybe it felt inevitable at some point BYU would pull off a sixth win. Mm-hmm. Alas, 5 straight losses, and I can tell you the discontent in Provo juxtaposed with the success that their basketball program had in the Big 12 year one. It's kind of crazy because there's all kinds of these arguments going on with BYU fans. Well, is BYU a basketball school now? I'm like, okay. One season does not make you a quote-unquote basketball school.
Right.
But the bigger point to be made here is the pressure is on Utah. There's no doubt about it. They're going into this conference, and they're going to have a bullseye on their back. And I kind of want to get your perspective on this. How do you feel that Kyle, Cam, like the whole group of the Utes, are they embracing that? Like, do they understand what they're going to be facing here?
I think they absolutely understand what the expectation is, but I think more importantly, the expectation in the building is it's business as usual.
Sure.
And that was something that I talked about with the Big 12 Insiders is, they were curious about what they thought about moving into a different conference. And it's, with all due respect, it's not like a personal thing at all, but I don't think they really care, to be honest. And it's not like we don't care as in we don't respect our opponents. It's just whether they're lining up against USC or Oklahoma State, the end game is still the same, right? We want to win that game, and we want to represent our conference in the conference championship game, and we maybe want to move on to even bigger and better things after that. So the faces are different, but the goal is still the same, and I think the attitude's still the same. So that's kind of what I expect. That's what I feel. That's the vibe I catch from Whittingham and those guys.
Sure.
And not that there isn't some curiosity and intrigue as to, these are different places. We've never been here before. But by and large, I just think the attitude is goal's the same. The faces are different. And bottom line is there's this expectation of us on the outside. There's also this expectation of us on the inside, and we got to get to work.
Well, and that's the part about it. It's all obviously going to be all played out on the field this fall, and I know that it feels so far away, but we're under 100 days. I think we're 98 days away from week 0. Now, I know that both UA and Utah aren't playing week 0, but they're week 1, so they're 105 days away from getting things going. It's coming quick, and that it feels like Big 12 Media Days down there in Las Vegas is going to be here before we know it. And like I said, I'm fully expecting Utah, if they're not picked to be the favorite in the Big 12, they're going to be number 2. It just feels that way. But I can appreciate the fact that Utah is just kind of, in their mindset, it's more of the same. Because remember, this is a Utah program that they made 4 straight Pac-12 title appearances. So yeah, you're right. It's new faces, new teams you're going up against. But I guess the internal standard, it doesn't change all that much, and nor should it. No.
I think if it does change, I think if that is an overarching thing that they're focused on, then they're focused on the wrong thing.
Well, it seems that would be pretty natural, because that would distract you from the overall goal of that. Now, when it comes to you talking about Utah potentially adding a piece or two via the portal, what would you expect it to be? Like, where would you think they're looking mainly?
To be honest, I think they could end up bringing in a running back. Okay. I think maybe an offensive lineman.
That's what BYU's looking at.
On the defensive side, maybe another cornerback or possibly a linebacker.
Okay.
And again, it's not that they're screwed if they don't, but those seem to be the areas where they maybe could stand to have another person or two enter the conversation. I've also been under the impression that they, that they maybe possibly could be bringing in another wide receiver, because they are just so dead serious about getting that part of their game up and going in a way that we haven't seen in a while.
It's never been going in Kyle Whittingham's tenure.
I know. Well, that's not true. That's not true. The 2000, everybody forgets that 2008 wide receiver squad was actually pretty lit.
Okay, the 08, okay, good point. The 08, but let's be honest, Kyle's had a lot of success without that really big. But hey,
here's the thing: is I think they view that as the reason why they haven't necessarily checked some of the boxes off of their goal list.
Okay.
I think they've just lacked some explosive plays at times.
Okay.
And so I think getting a wide receiver core that they can get more involved and feel like they trust and can really let it rip is a big deal to them. And I think they feel like that's perhaps the missing piece that could elevate them from, it's really great that you made it here to, we're taking this over and it's ours.
Now, looking at it, it's going to be an interesting season, because the first game out of the chute for Utah Big 12-wise against Oklahoma State, that one might be the biggest one of the season. And I know that traditionally you want to have one of those bigger games later on in the year, but it's the way the schedule shakes out here. And I think there's going to be a lot of interested parties that aren't necessarily maybe fans of the Cowboys or the Utes, who are going to watch that game because they want to get a feel really early on. Okay, how serious is Utah? Are they able to and how good is Oklahoma State? They're going against the Pac-12 legit champion. It's going to be interesting to see that one in particular, because that's a very early test that is, I think, going to say a lot about how that season potentially could go for both programs, quite literally.
Absolutely. I mean, Oklahoma State's definitely one of the teams that we consistently talk about as being in that upper echelon of the Big 12. So there's some thought that, them, Utah, perhaps Arizona. I know Kansas State has, been talked about very highly, possibly even Kansas, depending on what they do. Those are kind of where the eyeballs are falling as far as, who's going to take the top spots in this league. At least very early on. And so, you get that pairing between Utah and Oklahoma State right out of the gate. And I get, a lot of times you want those games later in the season, but the benefit is if it's a good game and both sides play hard, it probably doesn't hurt them. No. And especially if they continue on and keep playing well towards the end of the season, even if they're not playing in bigger games like that. I think there is some benefit there to really both of them. You protect, two of your entities that potentially could do some big things for you in that regard. And then, the other interesting part, though, with that is Utah comes home and hosts Arizona.
Yes.
So, they kind of get, I think, probably their toughest games done
early. There's some questions about UCF. They've made a great haul in the transfer portal. There's no doubt about that. But I have to say, having watched teams that do that, USC, Colorado, it hasn't necessarily worked out for them the way that I think they thought it would. So does UCF scare me? No. You have to prove that all of that's coming together and will be a force. And there's going to be plenty of time for them to prove that before they meet with Utah. So I don't know that I'm marking that one as a tough one right out the gate. It could be. But I just need to see that all those transfers into that program actually work together as a team. And I personally think there's more examples of that not working than of it working. So...
Well, you're right. The transfer portal has proven that sometimes it all comes together, and it's great. Other times it just doesn't ever really come together. And that I can point directly to BYU last year. They brought in a ton of transfer. The total overhaul of that roster last year, Michelle, not just transfer portal. I'm talking return missionaries, high school guys entering junior college, and transfer portal. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 50 or 51% of BYU's roster was turned over last year. And I'm not saying that BYU is unique in that regard because, you can point directly to Colorado. Colorado did 90%.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, good job. But the bigger point to be made is I think BYU, I think anybody who watched the Cougars last year, and trust me, you and I watched them pretty darn close, was it never really gelled, particularly on offense. That rushing attack was so inept for so long of the season that it was just like, what is going on here? The offensive line had issues, running backs had injuries, and the transfers in those units didn't necessarily pan out the way you expected. The quarterback situation, Keaton Slovis got injured. I don't want anybody to say that he could have come back. He couldn't have. They were not going to risk his NFL future for a guy who was, from what I understand, 60% of what he was before he got injured. So you have to make do with what you're given, obviously. But I think BYU learned some, good and hard lessons last year. They're going to benefit them this year because we're talking about two programs, and I don't mean to get BYU fans upset, nor should they be upset. The goal for BYU this year is get to the postseason, get to bowl eligibility. Whereas for Utah, you are the marked team coming in here. You are the team that everybody's going to be like, all right, there's the big bad Utes, let's take them down. There's two different levels these two programs are competing on, but I don't want BYU fans to think that Utah is going to stay at that level and you're going to be stuck at your level forever.
Right.
That changes. And I think BYU, for everything you want to see what the success of the Cougars is going to be potentially down the road, look at what Kyle Whittingham and the Utes did.
Yeah.
It came out of the gate. They actually had a pretty incredible first year in the Pac-12, then backslid pretty hard to those back-to-back 5 and 7 seasons. And then it was a monumental task to build from that, and then they ultimately realized their championship aspirations in the Pac-12. The linear paths these two programs are on, BYU is about a decade behind right now of where Utah was at. But if you want to see what BYU I think can become, look at your arch rival.
Yeah.
And I know that trust me, if people are listening, they're going to hop on Twitter.
They're going to be so mad at you.
But that's what it's got to be.
It is.
Because Kyle Whittingham proved that you can do this. You can make a successful leap from what was the G5 to the Power 5. And, yes, you can be on top of that conference eventually. It just takes time.
Well, and not just be on top, but stay on top.
Sure,
which is also something
There's
that
some
Utah
staying
did.
power, yeah.
It wasn't a flash in the pan. Oh,
Sure.
gee, that's so cute. You guys won it once. It was, they constantly were getting back, and now moving into a different conference, the conversation kind of remains the same around them. That they're expected to be a top dog, and again, it's any of those teams that came in, from the G5 rank or the independence ranks for the Big 12, they have the opportunity there. It's been shown, and even TCU has kind of shown the path to getting yourself established in that role, in a bigger role, in a bigger conference.
To a national championship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it absolutely can be done. It just is going to take some time.
It will, and here's the thing. Utah this year, I think the goal for Utah is, win the Big 12, but more importantly, Utah, there's one other thing on the Kyle Whittingham bucket list still.
Playoffs.
Make the playoffs. Now, it's an expanded field, so that makes it infinitely easier to make it into the playoffs now with a 12-team playoff, but that is kind of the last, check mark on the Kyle Whittingham career checklist, and we all know that he's not necessarily super long for the job. It's not anybody's surprise, but at the same time, he's got a good thing going right now.
Totally.
So
Totally.
it's kind of an interesting dynamic. You look at this because BYU, they're currently in on a guy named Isaiah Jada. He came out of Snow College last year, went to Colorado, went through that whole experience with the Coach Prime situation, and decided, you know what, I'm better suited to go elsewhere. And he visited BYU this week. He's going to visit USC. He's a Southern California native originally, and he's going to visit the Trojans. But you're right. They're the biggest to bring its whole circle on this conversation is that both of these programs, they're looking for pieces right now still in the portal, but they're not necessarily expected to be the pieces that are like going to make or break the season, nor should they, because if that is what you're banking on right now, you're probably going to be the long shot of long shots. And
You're kind of in trouble if that's where you're at the moment.
So it's just it's kind of a funny thing that these two programs, as I know that these fan bases, they love to get at each other, but they're more connected than they ever have been before. Not just because they're in the same conference again. It's just that I think both of them, they have built and found success in similar paths. But the thing is, Utah's just a little further along that path than BYU is currently. And for good reason. All right, we will take a time out here. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to get into technical fouls, talk about some of the more frivolous or stupid things in sports. And trust me, there are some stupid things out there. We'll talk about that next, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat, you'll get hit with a bat, 'cause that's a technical foul. You will feel my wrath. That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are out here, and Michelle, the smells just get better and better
I
the longer we're going along. We got wings going on multiple grills. We got steaks going on here. We're doing cobbler
Ribs.
competition. Yeah, geez, they're going all out
Everything,
today.
all the good stuff.
Yeah, and the best part is, like, some of these setups, Michelle.
I know, they're pretty incredible.
Yeah, this is what I aspire to do one day, but I don't have the time nor the money to do some of what these guys are doing, but it's awesome to see because
competition barbecuing is crazy. I grew up with the Snyder brother kids.
Oh yeah.
So
Snyder Brothers Meats, yeah.
I am so familiar with all of this because they are big into doing that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
All right, so technical fouls. Michelle, do you have anything outside of the Scottie Scheffler situation you want to get to?
Yes.
Okay.
I am giving my technical foul to Harrison Butker.
Okay, yes, well, he's made some headlines this week.
He certainly has. And here's the thing. Like, I don't have an issue with his perspective on life. Like, that's fine, and everybody's entitled to do what they want to do.
Sure.
However, time and place. That's my thing. College graduation with a bunch of women that have worked really, really hard to get a college degree and lecturing them about the benefits of staying home and being a stay-at-home wifey so that men can go and do what they want to do was probably not a wise choice. It's a lot of work to get that degree, and I don't think you go to college just for funsies without any intent of doing something with the degree, even if it's a part-time thing.
Sure.
So I thought I don't have an issue with his viewpoint. Like, if that works for him in his situation, absolutely, by all means, go for it. That's great. But if you're giving a college commencement speech, that's just it's just not the time and place to bring that up.
To add on top of that, Michelle, he brought up his own wife, right, and how it works
Yeah.
with him. Obviously, it's a lot easier to make that work when you're one of the best kickers in the NFL, like one of the highest kickers in the National Football League.
Yeah.
You're a multimillionaire is what you're saying? Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, of course, his wife doesn't have to do a whole lot besides, raise their family. So I thought that was
very
pretty
true.
silly.
Yeah. It was a bad look. It wasn't the time or the place to go on that rant.
Yeah, trust me, and it continues on, by the way, the backlash, and as it should. Like, here's the thing, not your way works for everybody, and everybody has to kind of find their own path in the world. So let's just be a little more understanding
Yes.
across the board. I got one real quick one here. We'll get to Scottie Scheffler in a moment. Did you know that O.J. Simpson had Marv Albert essentially feed him bad intel when they were doing NFL games way back in the day?
What?
So Marv Albert was on the Dan Patrick show this week. I worked with O.J. Simpson during his 2 stints in NFL broadcasting. But Albert said he found ways to mess with him. He said that Simpson was a colleague during his days in the covering the NFL. But Paul McGuire was a analyst and everything, and they would have these meetings pregame with the coaches and whatnot. And essentially, they caught on that O.J. was essentially just stealing what McGuire was talking to his coaches about and passing off as his own information.
Oh my gosh.
So then they found this. Said OJ at one time was doing sideline first for NFL games. I remember I was working with Paul McGuire at the time we would rehearse, and all of Paul's comments during the rehearsal were used by OJ when he would go on for the pregame show. We had met with the coaches, met with the players, and Paul would always have great stuff. And then we would have to do, and then what we had to do after a couple of games went by in this fashion. We were actually throwing the rehearsal to give him bad intel and to catch him and prove that he was stealing information. So, OJ.
Just further proof that OJ was not a good guy.
Bit of a slime ball. Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. So let's get to the big story of the day, though. Yesterday, I walked into yesterday to get ready for DJ and PK. And news was starting to filter out. The first reports from Jeff Darlington in his video of Scottie Scheffler being arrested by Louisville Metropolitan Police. Now, let's acknowledge the horrific auto pedestrian fatality that happened that caused the backup here. There were multiple golfers, by the way, that were caught up in this traffic trying to get to Valhalla Golf Club that literally just got out of their car and walked to the club. Scottie was close enough, apparently, and he had been told, based on the reports, that he was supposed to navigate his way around this police barricade and get himself into the entrance of the club so he could get ready for his round. But then, apparently, police officer 2 thought that he was not supposed to be doing what he was doing, and as Christian will play right now, this ensued.
Guys. Dude, step back. Back up, or you I'm back. Step back. I'm back. Guys.
What do we do?
I'm staying back.
Here's the thing. Right now, he's going to jail. Okay? He's going to jail, and it ain't nothing you can do about it. Period. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, do you have questions?
I'm media. I'm a reporter. Okay. So that's all.
That's fine.
I just want to make sure that's
okay. But you need to step back over here now.
No problem. You got it.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. That's Jeff Darlington, ESPN reporter, who was literally right on the scene there, following Scottie. So you hear that? Nothing you can do about it. He going to jail.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. First off, he's in a very clearly marked car that it's like a courtesy car from the tournament that designates that this guy can be where he's going, allegedly. Minwoo Lee, who's one of the golfers playing in the PGA Championship, said that he did the exact same thing Scottie did in terms of navigating around that police barricade to get into Valhalla to get ready for his round. And Scottie was just doing it, and you haul him off, put him up for a mugshot in an orange jumpsuit, and allegedly, according to Jeff Darlington, after you arrest this guy, you turn to Jeff, who's a reporter, and say, hey, by the way, who did we just arrest?
It's my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, I know that Scottie's not necessarily the most identifiable person. He's not Tiger Woods. He doesn't have that world renown right now.
Right.
But he's the best player in the world right now. And for you to haul him out of his car, put him in cuffs, and haul him off to the precinct, which, by the way, one of the Valhalla Golf Club co-owners had to go pick him up and drive him back. Come on now.
What a mess.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Hey, have you seen The Other Guys? The movie The Other Guys? You know what I'm talking. Tyler, check out here. The Yankee Clipper. So in the movie, who's the actor? I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden. Christian, you can help me if you remember this. It's Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. And Wahlberg, there's a famous scene in the movie where he shoots Derek Jeter because I'm on tunnel duty. I'm in Yankee Stadium, and this guy in the hood who's walking down I told him to stop. You got to stop, man. You got to stop. And then he shoots him in the leg. It's Derek Jeter. He's like, dude, you shot me in the leg. And he's like, now I'm stuck on death duty for the rest of my career, and everybody calls me the Yankee Clipper. And all of his compatriots in the circle, dude, you screwed us out of a championship that year. So this Louisville Metropolitan Police officer may find himself on desk duty a lot of the other guys.
What a fail. What a fail.
Yeah, the Scottie Scheffler Clipper now is what this guy will be known as going forward. But any other technical fouls? Christian, you got anything else for us?
No, that covers it. I think that Scottie Scheffler was so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're like, is this real life? Because I'm sitting there getting ready for the show. I'm like, this is seriously happening. And there's that video of him getting hauled off by the cops. You can do about it. He's going to jail right now. It's like,
well, and I think the crazy part about that story was it was like very confusing to follow at first. And then it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the deal. I don't typically like people who say, don't you know who I am? But in that circumstance,
oh my gosh,
I think Scottie would have been justified in saying,
would you know who I am?
By the way, Scottie Scheffler, for him to go out and do what he did yesterday on the course.
Crazy.
Props to you, sir. You've got like nerves of steel.
I will add, on Real Golf, they were talking about it this morning. Scottie said that he was in the jail cell, like stretching and stuff, like getting ready.
I did my stretches. He said I was watching the reports of what I was doing on TV as I'm sitting in the slammer. I'm stretching and getting ready for my round while I'm sitting in the precinct and being read my Miranda rights and whatever else goes on.
Oh my gosh.
We got a celebrity sighting walking by, Scott Gerard, competing, doing his thing.
That is crazy.
Scottie? Yeah, we are on there.
Sir.
You guys ready for some cobbler?
Sure.
Yeah.
We're always ready for some cobbler.
I know it's early, but
Oh, jeez, that looks incredible.
Yeah. Oof.
Folks, Scott Gerard.
I'll run some over.
Sounds good.
Sounds great,
He's
Scottie.
competing in this. This is an incredible thing, and I'm sure he's going to win it. No pressure or anything, Scottie. But, but anyways, we'll come back on the other side. We're actually going to talk with Bob Casper, and we'll get more of his insight on this Scheffler situation. But yeah, he was legitimately warming up in the jail cell as he's waiting to get released. By the way, he got second-degree felony assault of a police officer on his rap sheet.
For damaging the $80 pants.
So, good times. Anyways, more in a moment. We'll have Bob Casper from Real Golf Radio. You heard him earlier this morning. He'll join us. We'll talk about the latest from the PGA Championship. That's all next right here on The Saturday Show. Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you all are doing well on this Saturday morning. And the guy we're about to talk to, I'm surprised is not actually here in person. We are out here Pitmaster Barbecue Competition right out here on the Triad Center Plaza. And Scott Gerard just walked some of his cobbler by that he's competing in today. And holy cow.
It is so good.
Yeah, Scottie, geez, that was a killer. But we are joined now by a grill master himself, and that is the one, the only Bob Casper. Bob, first off, what are we grilling today? Oh, we lost him. Okay, we'll get him back on in just a second. But Scottie nailed it. That's absolutely incredible.
Oh, my gosh, so good. And we have another one here to sample in the next break. So we'll be giving you all the food breakdowns as soon as we, are able to taste everything.
So,
and,
there's one reason why my Mrs. Hatch would be a big fan of this other cobbler. One reason only. She loves candied pecans.
Okay. You know what? I can respect it. I can respect it.
Megan, my wife, she makes an incredible pecan pie. I'm not necessarily a pecan pie fan, but she kills it. But anyway,
okay.
So that's what she'd be all over this, and she's gonna be very angry when I send her a picture of it. It's like, what is? Give it a shot. We'll let you know how it goes. All right. We got Bob Casper back on the line. And, Bob, we are out here. They got a big barbecue competition going on. So my question for you is, what are you grilling today for the PGA Championship?
You know what? I might do a ribeye. I've got one sitting in my fridge. And, I love ribeyes. But it's not pecan. It's pecan.
Pecan. My wife's from California. She calls it pecan. I don't know. I give up. But
yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about that soft A, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. But, Bob, we heard you earlier this morning on Real Golf Radio, and as always, you and Brian killed it. But give me your sense. We've officially, if I'm not mistaken, we finally got through round two. They've gotten through the guys who were delayed yesterday and had to pause for darkness. Is that correct?
Yes, round two is done, and round three is already teed off, and they're getting closer to the final guys getting ready to tee off here in the third round. It's an amazing leaderboard. It's going to be awesome to watch all these guys, Schauffele, Morikawa, Thagala, Scheffler, DeChambeau, Tony, all these guys, and I'm going to be riveted to the TV the next 2 days.
Okay, so, I mean, we have to ask the overarching question. Have you ever seen anything as nuts in the PGA Tour as what happened yesterday?
No, nothing. Never have I seen anything like that. You know, the only time was when, Tiger hit the fire hydrant quite a while ago and that kind of thing. But never anything like this when a guy's going into the golf course to prep and get ready for his round, and then, the tragedy that happened prior to Scottie Scheffler being arrested and that kind of thing. But then to be able to not think about or be able to clear his mind and compartmentalize everything that transpired that morning, and then come out and play a great round of golf and shoot 5 under par 66. It's amazing. That's why he's the number one player in the world.
Well, and Lloyd Cole and I know you know Lloyd well. We were talking about it yesterday, just off the air, and we were like, okay, if there is anything that would crack a human being, like ahead of a round of golf, it's being hauled off to the precinct, being booked on multiple felony accounts, and we'll see what happens with that whole thing, Bob. But if there's something that's going to crack somebody's like exterior, you think it'd be that. But Scottie, just unflappable. You mentioned compartmentalizing. That's absolutely the most ultimate like compartmentalization I can imagine for a golfer.
Yeah, it's the thing that these guys do so well is their lives are like everybody else's lives off the tour, so to speak. Rory was talking earlier in the week about filing for divorce, and now you've got this and everything that happened with that. When they get on the golf course in between the ropes, they stay in the present and they focus so well on hitting golf shots and everything that it's almost a respite for them. It's almost a place where they can go and get away from the world. And so for Scottie to be able to do that and play that well was amazing.
Talk about, what are these guys, these top-level guys, doing in order to get their mindset in that area? Are they seeing, sports psychologists? Or, is it just years of practice? What is it that gets them so keyed and locked in that something like that is not a big distraction?
Well, it's a lot of things. These guys have played golf all their lives. They've played professional sports, and they enjoy and thrive on the competition. They understand that once they get to the golf course, there's nothing that they can do in the outside world, but they have control of everything there between the ropes. And so what they do is they focus. They focus their minds individually, one shot at a time, and individually on each shot. A lot of them work with sports psychologists. Wyndham Clark had been working with the sports psychologist, and he ends up, turning his career around, winning the major championship last year at the U.S. Open, winning at Quail Hollow a couple of weeks before the U.S. Open, and just amazing how things turn around. But what they try to figure out how to do is to free up their mind so that they can perform at their top and elite level, and that's what these guys do.
Well, on that point, I think you've watched Full Swing on Netflix, right, Bob?
Yeah, of course.
The episode this past season with Joel Damon and him talking about he was so resistant to talking to a sports psychologist, right. And eventually the people around him, his wife, his caddy, who was his best friend, they kind of prevailed on him, and he finally said, "You know what, I'm going to go do it." And we'll see what the ultimate results are for a guy like that, but. That you nailed it. A guy like Wyndham Clark, who knows what his career would have looked like had he not gone and worked with a sports psychologist.
Yeah, and everybody always has junk that they deal with in their lives.
Yeah.
Wyndham Clark, mom passed away when he was young. He had some difficult challenges with that, and he's been able to work through that. Joel Dahman, is a guy that's kind of really a self-defeatist guy. His wife and, like you said, his caddy have come to him and said, guys, Joel, you need to see somebody. You need to figure out some things that are keeping you from playing your best golf. And the guys that do that and are able to, take some solace from everything that they're dealing with, become great performers, and their lives improve, not necessarily just on the golf course, but their lives off the golf course as well. So all these guys have teams around them. They have agents, they have sports psychologists, they have teachers, golf instructors, short game instructors, their wife, their travel person, all that kind of thing. And that's how they focus. It's not just an individual golfer anymore. It's a brand. I mean, when my dad was playing on tour and winning 51 times and 3 major championships and stuff like that, his team was my mom. My mom did everything. And, now these guys have 8 or 10 people, and they talk about their teams all the time. And so, but they're making stupid amounts of money, and they can afford to pay all those people.
You kind of mentioned earlier in the spot that we're coming into the home stretch of this thing. Who are some of the names that we should be watching closely as things begin to wrap up?
Well, Xander Schauffele comes off a second-place win last week when Rory McIlroy beat him. McIlroy played some phenomenal golf the last 36 holes. Yeah. So now Xander Schauffele, as he's the reigning Olympic gold medal winner, but he's never won a major championship. So Xander Schauffele needs to really focus in and play some consistent, really good golf over the next 36 holes. He's going to have people chasing him. Scottie Scheffler, Sahith Theegala, Colin Morikawa, who's won a PGA Championship before. There's going to be a lot of people chasing him. So he's got to keep his head down, focus on what he can do, and play the golf course, and find, the chips will fall where they may. But he's playing some great golf right now. He's putting well. He's driving the ball well. And the PGA Championship really promotes or really does well with first-time winners of a major championship. And so I would look for somebody other than Scottie Scheffler. I would look for somebody that's a first-timer, a guy that like Schauffele or Tony or Theegala that really makes a move and has a chance to win.
What's going to take for Tony to stay in this in your mind, Bob? Because we've talked to you in BT all week long, and you talk about the fact that this course sets up well for him. But what part of Tony, I'm talking about Tony Finau, what part of his game's got to come alive here in the final 36 for him to give himself a shot? His short game and his putting. He had a lot of good looks yesterday. He's at 8 under par. He shot 2 under par yesterday, and he had a lot of good looks for birdies. And if he expects to be in contention and be in the mix, Tony has to putt well and has to make those putts. And yesterday he was just off. He didn't make a bunch of them. He very well had the chance to shoot another round of 5 or 6 under par and be right in the mix of this thing. But if he can putt well over the next 36 holes, then Tony Finau will have a chance to win.
It should be interesting. We do have one. So Bryson DeChambeau, he's the leading guy in terms of the Live Tour playing in this. Give me a sense, Bob. I know that nobody really knows where things stand right now. Are we going to see that merger actually ever happen between the Live and PGA Tour?
And that's the interesting thing. It's not a merger between Live and the PGA Tour. It's a merger between the Public Investment Fund
good point, yes.
of Saudi Arabia and the PGA Tour. The Public Investment Fund wants to become a minority stakeholder in the PGA Tour enterprises. And and they also fund Live Golf. Yes. So it's a way for things to come back together, the factions to come back together, and to be a mending of professional golf. So we'll see if that happens. But they're a long ways away from it because the government's involved also. And, I would think this is probably, maybe a year to 2 away before things start to happen, which is unfortunate.
It is, no doubt. Well, Bob, appreciate all you do. Obviously, you and Brian absolutely kill it. Love having you on air, and we will catch up with you again early next week to recap whatever happens in the next 36 holes, and obviously the remaining 2 majors of the year, the U.S. Open and the Open Championship as well, all right?
You got it. Take care.
Well, there you go. That's Bob Casper from Real Golf Radio, and it is you got to get the live and PGA thing figured out. Like, the golf is fractured right now, and it's not going the way it needs to go. But
well, I mean, that feels like the story of so many sports at the moment.
It does, but here's the thing. Like, you've got the best golfers in the world split between 2 different tours here, and you've got Bryson DeChambeau, you got Brooks Koepka on one side over there, and John Rahm, by the way, jumped over to live, and he's absolutely incredible. And then on the other side, you got I don't know. I would be the person that's like, okay, just get it done. But Bob makes a very good point. The fact that it's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United States, guess what? There is a government element involved in all of this, and that will complicate some matters.
Can't stick to sports on this one.
No. It's intertwined in politics, and that's the sad part about it. All right. We will come back on the other side. We'll get into 5 minutes of, a little more extended edition of 5 minutes of, talk about some of the other topics we have not had a chance to touch on quite yet today. We are rolling on. We are out here. Really fun event going on, Michelle. And the smells continue, absolutely. We've got 2 different types of cobbler in front of us. We'll be trying in the break. We'll give you our verdict after that. There's ribs, wings, steaks. They're doing it all today. So stop on by right out here next to the Devereaux Mansion right outside the Triad Center. Love for you guys to stop by. We are on the air for another half hour or so. So coming up next, 5 minutes of. This is the Saturday Show right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around because she loves me so, and this I know for sure.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and we have been treated to some absolutely incredible cobblers so far. And I'm not like trying to brown nose, but I'm gonna say Scottie's blew it out of the water. I thought, but
Scottie's is just a little bit unique. It's a little unique.
Well, every one of the cobblers we've tried have all
very
been
different.
All different styles.
Very, very different styles.
Some more cakey than others. More, it's just kind of interesting. But
yeah.
Everybody has their own interpretation of how they go about things. That's why you have these competitions like this.
Exactly.
So, So we are out here, Pitmaster Barbecue Cookout happening here at the Triad Center. They're competing in steak, ribs, 2 different types of wings, both flats and drums, and also cobbler. So, busy day here, and Scottie's just over there grinding away. So, props to him. These guys, you can tell every one of them, they're being very meticulous. They got timers going off left and right because you gotta be precise with this stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to win something.
Exactly. And here's the thing: I've had people say like, "Well, okay, what about ribs? Like, no, there's a difference between competition style barbecue and then what actually." What you make, like what I make on my Traeger. Let's just put it that way. There's 2 different styles that we're talking about here. There's a big dichotomy. We got another cobbler. Jeez,
woo!
We're the unofficial judges of the cobbler competition we've decided here. So, yeah. So, no, it's been pretty fun. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of things going on. Now, Michelle, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the NBA. Now, the playoffs are rolling. We got 2 Game 7s, though, tomorrow. And I'm one of those people who believes the 2 of the greatest words in sports is Game 7. I love the do-or-die nature of it. I think it makes people either rise to the occasion or they shy away from it. And I think it's going to be really fun tomorrow. The funny thing is, if the Knicks, for example, if they do advance, Knicks fans are going to be insufferable. Because it's been a really, really long time since the Knicks have done
This is very true. This is very true. It's been a while since they've been relevant.
Yeah, we also have the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, and that's been an incredible series in of itself because Minnesota, their whole thing, they win the first 2 games in dominant fashion. We all are like, okay, are they going to sweep Denver? Denver punches back. Now it's going to a Game 7. Did you hear Anthony Edwards the other night about Game 7? So there was a famous, and this is after it was after Game 5 is when that report came out. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, so after Game 5, there were reports that came out that he told the attendants in Ball Arena in Denver, hey, I'll see you guys for Game 7.
Whoa.
Like he told like the locker room attendants. And then he's after Game 6. So they went back home, won Game 6 to forge it to Game 7, sending it back to Denver, which happens tomorrow. That's
crazy.
So it's 1:30 tip between the Pacers and the Knicks, and then 6 o'clock between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. But then he's asked after Game 6, is that legit? Did you actually tell these? He's like, yeah, you guys were there. I told those you-know-whats, insert expletive here, that we'd be back. Yeah.
Did you really tell the locker room staffer in Denver you were going to be back for
Hell
Game 7?
yeah. They know I was in there. Yeah, I told them. I said, I see y'all for Game 7.
I'm not going to lie, Michelle. I'm becoming a huge fan of Anthony Edwards.
I love that.
Like, it just...
He called it like he said.
I told them, you know what, I was going to be back. Yeah, hell yeah. I'm like, you know what? I can't help but like this guy. He's young, he's brash, and he's got the game to back it up. That's the thing about it. And we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow because there's going to be some really good golf. We just talked with Bob Casper about the PGA. It looks like the leaderboard's shaping up to be a really fun finish there. But I'll be glued to this as well, watching these 2 Game 7s, because Game 7, it's one of those things that's really fun in sports because it's do or die.
I mean, it is. It's your last shot. I have to say, I personally do not love the 7-game system.
Why not?
You know what? I think one shot.
Okay.
You either show up or you go home.
You're football mode. You like.
I am.
Okay.
I am. You know what? I don't necessarily want to sit through 5 or 6 really bad games, which I feel like happens a lot.
It does. Yeah.
So that's just me, though. But I mean, essentially, Game 7 becomes that like do or die.
It does, yeah.
Unless someone's got a pretty good hold of it in 5 games. So
we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Like, Game 7s are always fun. Tonight we've got Dallas and Oklahoma City squaring off. The Mavericks looking to knock out the Thunder, and that's been a pretty fun series. We've been the first round of the NBA playoffs this year. I honestly was like, this is boring. Like, 'cause there's just it was a lot of overmatched teams in that first round. It felt like,
yeah.
And you could tell really early on. I felt like in the first round, okay, yeah, these are the upper echelon teams, but this second round, I've been thoroughly entertained because the better teams have started going up against one another. None more so it feels like in that Minnesota-Denver series, which, like I said, it's been haymakers thrown back and forth, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But we've had a lot of fun. I don't want the Knicks to win just because like they haven't done anything. I just want to see the Knicks win because their fans are going to be like, yeah, now it's on to Boston. We're going to win the NBA title. It's like, no, you're not. But congratulations anyways.
Good on you for making it as far as you did.
Because Boston's already advanced, and it feels like they're just like this buzzsaw that's waiting to roll through either one of Indiana or New York. Now, it's been since 1995 since Madison Square Garden has had a Game 7 in it.
That is crazy.
And the last time they had a Game 7, it was Indiana. It was the Reggie Miller era.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. It feels like fate.
Yeah, we'll see.
Feels like fate.
Hockey, real quick. Couple of notes on that. We had last night the elimination of the. Oh man, I gotta pull this up and make sure I get this right. It was the elimination of the Avs. Got eliminated last night by the Dallas Stars. So if you're a Dallas sports fan right now, are you Tyler? Are you a Dallas guy?
Only because Joe Pavelski.
Okay, got it. All right, so you're a San Jose guy. Got it. Okay. But, yeah, so that series has been going on. We got the Canucks and the Oilers tonight. That's been a series in and of itself. These two Western Canadian teams duking it out. I'm getting more and more into the hockey thing because, obviously, they're going to be coming here, Michelle.
We're kind of going to have to.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. It's been pretty fun. Like, the thing is, I'm still such a neophyte in understanding the kind of the nuances of hockey. And that obviously has to take time for that to develop, but the back and forth nature of how this has been going in these NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, I should say, to get that technically correct, it's been pretty crazy because you have some really, really good teams. Like I remember we had a guy on with DJ and PK. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Christian, who was the gentleman we had on when you were filling in for me? You had a guy on from CBS Sports. Maybe you remember his name. But he was like, I'm a big fan of the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes get knocked out by the New York Rangers. It's like, oh, hey, way to go, guys. Like, so, but that's kind of the nature of of hockey. It feels like it's more underdog friendly in a way. Chris Bengal, that's who it was. Okay, yeah. So, but it feels like in some ways, underdogs in hockey seem to rise to the top more often than, for example, the NBA. Because it feels like the NBA, you have your top dogs, and they routinely seem to square off in the NBA Finals. But it's been kind of fun to learn a new sport. I'd say learn because I'm still very much learning along the way.
Absolutely. I'm finding because again, like you, I probably know even less about hockey than you do at this point. So, I mean, not good. But I found myself kind of wondering if the underdog thing plays out the way that it does, because I'm probably going to make NBA fans so mad. There's more potential for strategy to win out in a hockey game than there is in the NBA, whereas I think talent tends to win out more in the NBA than necessarily strategy.
Well, based on what I'm understanding with the hockey thing, you get a good goalkeeper who gets hot all of a sudden, that can propel you to a Stanley Cup final and a championship, from what I'm understanding. But you're right. Here's the thing. Hockey is a sport where you have to have multiple stars. Like, we're talking like multiple guys on multiple lines, as they call them, in your lineup. Whereas in the NBA, 2 superstars traditionally can get you over the top.
Yeah.
And yes, there's different roster sizes here, and there's that whole dynamic at play. The nice part is we're adding more pro sports to Utah, and that's what I'm here to celebrate mainly.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's going to be so fun this next year. It's going to be a crazy year.
Now, the interesting part about it is the NHL draft is going to come up soon enough, but we already have awards being handed out to Utah players. I got to pull this up here, make sure I get the right thing on this. And I got to pull this up, so bear with me. For Connor Ingram, yeah. So
yes.
Obviously with the Phoenix Coyotes, the Arizona Coyotes last year, he just won the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy. And I didn't know much about his story, but if you haven't heard him talk about this, he was dealing with OCD early on in his career, turned to some substance abuse stuff that really threatened to derail him in his career. He's able to get it sorted out and everything, and now he's considered one of the top-tier goalies in the NHL. And he's going to be calling Salt Lake City home next season. Yeah. We posted that on our Instagram, and I sat and listened to that. Incredible story. Crazy story. Jay Stevens is doing just a killer job covering all this stuff. Like, I got to give a shout out. We had him on the show. Was that 2 weeks ago when we were out at the You Win a Golf deal? Yeah. And Jay, he's getting these interviews left and right, and they're all of them. I'm just sitting here, I'm like, these are awesome. Like, there's some really, really cool stories that are going to be told here. So. I mean, I think most people know by now. I'm for sure all about the stories. Probably more so than the actual game. I love the stories behind the games. You do, and I will always give you credit on that. You like a good story, like a backstory. I guess is the best thing about it. And the whole Bill Masterton Award. It's for people who've overcome odds, and cool for Connor Ingram to see that award come out. And his interview with Jay, I just sat there. I'm like, this guy's really cool. He's overcome a lot here, obviously, and it's fun to think that he's going to be one of the backstops for the NHL in Utah. Now, the name's still pending out there. I think the voting is still open until next Wednesday? 22nd, 22nd.
Ooh,
so
it's coming up.
If you have not voted yet on your 4 favorite names, I would encourage you to do so. I'm sure there's thousands, if not millions, of other people who have already done it. The best part about it is all these newsletters that I've read and whatnot recently have been prognosticating on what the NHL and Utah is going to call themselves. Yeah. It's kind of funny. There's this dichotomy of it's got to be Yeti. It's got to be Mammoth. It's like, you know what?
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Here's the other thing about it. No matter who they're called, they're going to be embraced. Let's be real about it. I don't feel like anybody's going to be like, I don't like that name, I'm out. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, no. Again, I think we talked about this last week. The heat and the fire that's coming, the passion over that. I think it's just because we want to get it right. But once it's chosen, everybody's going to be on board.
And the other thing is, it's not going to be in effect for this first year. They will be the Utah Hockey Club or NHL in Utah, whatever they're going to call themselves this first year. They're just going to have Utah on the sweaters, and that's what it's going to be. And I can deal with that. I've actually one of the 4 I voted for was Utah Hockey Club. Just keep it that.
Boring.
I know. I'm one of those old school and
sounds like soccer.
Exactly. Sarah, our old producer, said, "Jake, you're going to the soccer mentality." I get it. Here's the thing. Like Oklahoma City right now, their AAA baseball team. They used to be the Oklahoma City Dodgers.
Right.
They said they're so affiliated with the Dodgers. They said they wanted to go about renaming their team as well. So this year they're the Oklahoma City Baseball Club while they figure out what they're going to call themselves.
I like that better for baseball than I like it for hockey.
Okay. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But this first year, it's going to be pretty generic, but the exciting part is it's here.
Yep.
Let's just embrace the fact that hockey's calling Salt Lake City home, and that's the really fun part about it. We also have RSL tonight, Michelle. They are on a 9-match unbeaten run, and they are going to face the one team that has beaten them in Utah this year, the Colorado Rapids.
Ooh.
Now, this is a rivalry matchup between these two. They play annually for the Rocky Mountain Cup.
Yep.
RSL has won 15 of the 19 last editions of the Rocky Mountain Cup.
Wow.
If Colorado were to win tonight, they would win it just for the 5th time in 20 years. So we'll see how things go. It's out at America First Field once again. Based on what I'm hearing, it's already a standing room only crowd expected. So it should be a pretty fun night out at America First Field. The interesting part is that we called it the Riot. They're still calling it the Riot at AFF. Like, okay, whatever.
Whatever. But you get to be there.
I will be there tonight. I will be on the pre-half and post-game show. Lauren and Spenno, we've been having a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when a team's on a run like the RSL is right now. So
winning solves a lot of issues.
It's stunning, I know.
It's breaking news. Winning better than losing.
Yeah, so they're going to 6:30 pregame show, a 7:30 first kick. I know that soccer's not for everybody, whereas like hockey, there's some people I'm sure they're like, hockey, whatever, it is what it is. But the thing is, Salt Lake's growing up. We're getting a little bit of a sense now. We got multiple pro sports. Our fan bases are starting to really grow, and I think it's going to be an exciting time because if RSL continues to play like they are, and Chicho Arango in particular, if he continues to do what he's doing, he's going to become like the next hometown star here for Utah because he is already he's got 18 goal contributions on the season, Michelle. And what I mean by that is assists and goals, 11 goals, 7 assists. RSL has scored 22 times this season. He's either scored or assisted on 18 of them this year.
So, I mean, what you're saying is, look out, we may have our new Kyle Beckerman.
Yeah, but maybe even more popular in a way because he scores goals in bunches. Kyle was an Ironman who was just was an absolute pest on the field. He became a household name because of the style he played and the position he played. But Chicho Arango, he's an out-and-out goal scorer, and we all know that Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, like the best players in the world, in most people's eyes, are these goal scorers. And that's they got a bona fide goal scorer in Chicho Arango, and the best part is he's playing here in Utah. What do we got?
Spider.
Uh-oh. Where'd it go?
It's right there.
Oh, okay. We got him. All right. I just killed him live on air. No big deal.
Oh, man. Hopefully PETA doesn't come after you for saying that out loud.
He's a little guy. He's okay. He's to a better place. Let's put it that way. Michelle, I got 3 kids. Trust me. They see any hint of anything. That's how I'm just.
You're on it.
Mash it.
Spider
Let's go.
guy.
Let's get on with our day here. But I was like, what, we got a bee or something going on here? But hey.
No, I can handle a bee. I cannot handle a spider.
Spiders are not your thing. Okay.
Spiders are not my thing.
That's okay. It's okay. I was just like, I got this. Hang on for just a second here. But all right. So other things to talk here. So once again, RSL tonight, 6:30 pre-match show, 7:30 first kick. David James is out of town, so I don't know who's calling the game tonight. Not me.
A mystery.
It might be Spenno. Who knows? We'll see.
Mystery. We like it.
Could be Landon Southwick, who has done a really good job filling in at times as well, so stay tuned for that. Now, let's also talk about the NFL for a minute here. The schedule is out, Michelle.
Yes, it is.
They make a big deal of the schedule, and I get it for good reason because obviously they're trying to set up the best matchups in their eyes months ahead of time and have fill in essentially a lull in the schedule. We know how the NFL wants to be a 24/7, 365 sport. Your thoughts on the schedule and anything related to it? Did you have a chance to look it over?
I just looked it over, excuse me, for the purposes of seeing if there were any crossover games.
Oh, I know your piece you did for Utah.
Yeah. And there's not as many as there could have been.
Sure.
Thank you, Arizona and and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
But there's some opportunities there if Utah fans want to plan a trip and double dip and go see an NFL game that's also close by to where Utah's playing. You have 2 for sure options and then a 1 at large depending on if they make the conference championship game.
Sure.
That would make a lot of sense. And then, of course, I mean, if you're fans of said teams like Denver or Las Vegas, it's not that hard to jump on a plane. But that's on you to figure that out.
Yeah, I know BYU's got 3 or 4 of their own. I know Mitch did a piece on the BYU side where you can cross over and whatnot. Some of them involve a little more travel. I know that he wrote one about the Baylor game for BYU. The next day, Houston's at home, but Baylor and Waco are 3 hours away from
that's
Houston.
a 3-hour drive.
So there's going to be some travel involved if you want to pull some of these off.
Yeah.
But there seem to be at least 1 to 2 every year that are pretty easy to do if that's what you're looking to do. So and check those out at KSLSports.com. You can read up on those and make your travel plans accordingly and fight the hordes of other Utah or BYU fans who are trying to do what you're doing. Now, did you hear this quote from Mike North, who's the NFL VP of broadcast relations and whatnot? So last year, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers got all kinds of primetime spots.
Right.
Now, obviously, his season ended 4 snaps into the year. And so this year the Jets are back on. They got a number, and they have a cap. I think it's 5 or 6 primetime slots per team, just under the NFL's broadcasting rules. They cap that. But Mike North, he's the NFL's vice president of broadcast planning, said this: yes, it's an awful lot of primetime games early in the season, speaking of the Jets, but obviously, here's the kicker, I feel like the Jets kind of owe us one.
The Jets owe everybody, okay?
They kind of do.
That's how bad
that's the thing
are.
About it. They do kind of owe everybody. There's no doubt about that. But so here's the deal: the Jets are one of those teams with Aaron Rodgers who are going to be a draw no matter when they play. But it's kind of funny to hear the NFL, like a guy who's high up in the NFL chain, say, "Hey,
you owe us.
You know what? You screwed us last year." It's like injury happens, folks. So deal with it. Like, it is what it is. Now, Zach Wilson attempted to do what he did. I have no faith in the Jets' brain trust right now because it just seems like they don't know what they're doing, frankly.
No.
And that's not me just being a Zach Wilson stan. You just look at what the Jets' history suggests. Quarterbacks go there to die.
Pretty much. But, I mean, speaking of Zach Wilson, going to be interesting to see what, if anything, he's able to do and accomplish in Denver.
Well, it was kind of funny. He had Denver hosts and media people out there when he was traded to Denver. Looking at the roster at the time, they're like, hey, there's your new starting quarterback. Now, they went and drafted Bo Nix out of Oregon, and all the reports and everything that Sean Payton has said is that he is enthralled with Bo Nix, and for good reason. When you're a first-round draft pick as a quarterback, guess what your job is to do? It's typically to start year one. That's just the nature of the NFL. I do wonder if some small part of me says that Sean Payton is essentially trying to do what some of these other quarterback quote-unquote gurus have done, where they bring in a quarterback who's quote-unquote damaged goods, and then they kind of rehabilitates the wrong term, but give them an opportunity to show what they can do, and then essentially trade them off. I can point you to the 49ers, for example. Like, with what Brock Purdy's been doing, it's been an incredible find. But they brought in Sam Darnold, let him kind of do his thing, rehabilitate his image in NFL circles, and guess where he ends up going? He goes to Minnesota, where he'll have a chance to play, it looks like, early on. We'll see. But the Zach Wilson thing is interesting. He'll be able to compete for time. It just seems like when you have a first-round draft pick nipping at your heels right there, he's going to get the treatment that every other quarterback who's come out, oh, great, the young buck's going to take this job. But best of luck to Zach.
You know, I mean, even just being able to sit back and I think take a breather and learn and not have people being mad at you constantly when sometimes a lot of it was kind of their own doing. Again, not that Zach helped himself any in certain situations, but it wasn't all his fault either. But I think, you know, that's maybe just a good situation for him to be in. Take a step back. You know, you're there just in case, but the pressure's kind of off.
Yes.
The pressure's kind of off.
Well, it should be way off from what it was. There's no doubt about that. What are your thoughts on the NFL Christmas Day playing on Netflix?
That is an interesting move. That's a very interesting move. I'm curious how that's going to go. I mean, it's the NFL, so you have to figure people are going to tune into that. But, I mean, who knew Netflix would start doing live stuff.
There have been so many rumors for so many years of them wanting to do it, but they never actually really pulled the trigger until now.
Yeah.
Now they're paying a pretty hefty penny for it. As an NFL fan, if you want to watch all the games, you're going to be paying through the nose to have like every streaming service known to man. You got Peacock, you got to have Netflix now. If you're like me and you're a cord cutter, you got YouTube TV, and that's how you get NFL Ticket. If you're a diehard fan of a team and want to watch all their, good luck to anybody anymore.
Yeah, it's a complicated web we've woven with all the streaming services.
Yep, so Netflix is going to have at least one game in 2026 beyond the 2 this year, and also it's a 3-year deal overall with Netflix. But here's the thing. I don't anticipate that going away anytime soon because Peacock, with that NFL playoff game that they had that was the Dolphins and the Chiefs, they got 20 million viewers or something like that. Sign up for Peacock to watch that game. Just shows the NFL, they can pop up anywhere that they want, and tens of millions of people are going to tune in.
Yep.
So it's nice to have that problem if you're the NFL, I suppose.
I mean, it makes them a boatload of money, and I would love a boatload of money. So,
well, they're already talking about their next TV contracts, like the next media rights deal, going north of $100 billion.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
just nuts, crazy stuff. But hey, welcome to the behemoth that the NFL has become in the sports media world. All right, we will wrap up things next on this edition of the Saturday Show that's coming up on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jay Catch, Michelle Bodkin. Been a fun show. We've had a lot of cobbler today. It's been awesome.
So much cobbler.
Yeah.
Woo.
Totally okay with you. I love cobbler. That's just me. But out here, they're having a big old barbecue event here. Competitions. We got Scottie just grinding away over there. I'll say he's doing wings right now. Is that what he's?
That seems to be what he's doing.
The best part about this is they make a batch of their wings and everything. But as you can see Scottie doing right now, he's looking at
examining them.
Perfect grill marks. Make sure the color on it. You got to pick the best ones to present. There's no doubt about that. But it's been a really, really fun event, and been some really cool things going on here. We got more food coming by now. What do we got now? Oh, we're showing.
Oh,
okay,
you're gonna show us.
These the wings. Oh, okay. Oh, look at those.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. It's all about presentation. Half the thing is. Yeah, it's pretty fun. This is awesome. I like to use my Traeger and everything and make stuff. I would get so trounced in something like this.
Yeah,
but
this
it's
is
fun.
Another level.
Like these guys. I should not guys, but because trust me, we got plenty of females out here as well. They're just absolutely. They are an incredible artists of this trade. Because their ability to make food, man, it's unparalleled. All right, so Michelle, Utah women's softball is in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
They lost. They had a really close matchup yesterday. Lost 2-1. And are they underway in game 2 already?
Yes, they are about a half hour into it.
Who are they taking on today? Is it?
Ooh, let me.
Is it
look
Morgan
that
State?
up.
I
think
like
it was probably Morgan State.
They're
Morgan State.
Okay. So they're in Durham, North Carolina. They took on South Carolina yesterday.
Oh, looks like their game got delayed a little bit, so they're starting now.
Oh, they're just barely getting going.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So not much to report on at the moment, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, it's do or die for them today because it's double elimination in these regionals. So they lost yesterday 2-1, which, by the way, was a really, really competitive game.
Hits just didn't go their way.
Yeah, so my wife and I, my wife's a former softball player. She actually will sit down and watch college softball with me. She doesn't watch anything else with me. She's just it's not her thing.
Yeah.
But she watched, and we were watching that one yesterday, and she's like, man, bad break for Utah.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, the hits just did not go their way, but defensively and on the pitcher's mound, they did about everything they could have to get that win. So sometimes it just works that way.
Yeah. Baseball, on the other hand, they are in action tonight taking on USC. Does USC always played in Irvine? Have I missed that somehow?
I
don't think that's the case. I thought they always had a on-campus stadium.
I am not sure. To be honest, I haven't paid a ton of attention to baseball, mostly because Utah's very rarely ever been good enough to really warrant.
They've been good this year, though.
They have been good this year, so we have been paying some attention this year.
Okay, I got my answer via the Google machine.
Oh.
So they do have Dedeaux Field is their home venue on campus. I knew that. I thought it was the case. But they're doing construction at the field this year. So their home games this year are being split between OC Great Park in Irvine and Page Stadium at LMU in Westchester, as well as one other venue. So that's why they're playing in Irvine this week.
Well, we got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no doubt. Any other thoughts from you as we wrap up here?
Just enjoy this beautiful day. Come out and check out the barbecue.
Yeah.
If you have a chance and you're wandering around downtown, it's a glorious day out. So definitely get out and enjoy it.
Yep, money weather, no doubt about that. All right, so for Michelle, I'm Jake. A big thank you to all of you for tuning in. Also for Christian, producing for us, like literally just right upstairs from where we're sitting here. But we will be back next week with all things sports. And in the meantime, plenty of coverage to come on the KSL Sports Zone all week long with the other shows as well. So until then, have a great rest of your day. This has been the Saturday Show right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.